Welcome to Dressmakers Design Studio. My name is Andi and I'm a dressmaker, a sewing teacher, and I have an online sewing school called Dressmakers Design Studio. Today I'm going to be teaching you all the different kinds of straight stitches, the zigzag stitches, all the different kinds of machine stitches that a professional dressmaker needs to know. Let's get started. So let's dive deeper into some straight stitches. Now bear with me here, this is actually really interesting. We're going to go from looking at the different stitches from the stitch lengths, not the widths, but the length themselves. We're going to start with a number 7. So this is actually a machine basting stitch. And now this is really all we need to do the temporary stitches called basting. So this is the widest width of the stitch length that my machine here can do. So what I want you to do is do the exact same thing for your machine and then work your way through the stitches, through the different stitch lengths. And we're going to measure the different stitch lengths for your machine. So what I've done here is I'm just putting little markers where each time the needle goes into the fabric, and I'm going to be measuring that stitch length. So if I know that the longest basting stitch is 5mm wide, that means it's got a really good width to it. But then the next one down, which is a 3, is actually a 4mm stitch length. And that gives us a really good guide on how big your stitches are between each of the sizes, and this helps you to plan what kind of stitch length that you will need for the rest of your sewing projects. So keep going through all of your stitch lengths for your machine, for all of your straight stitches, and create a little guide for yourself so that you better know your machine's capabilities. For zigzag stitches, we're going to look at the width of the zigzag stitch, so when the needle goes from side to side. So we're going to start from 7, from 5 to 3, then down to 1. And the stitch length, we're going to start it off just at a typical width. It's about 3 to 4, I think this one is. And so this is at a 7. So this is the widest that my machine can go. And then I'm going to move it down to the 5 right here. And you can see the needle move just slightly. And then as we stitch down, we're going to go down to a 3 and then down to a 1. This way it gives you a good understanding of how wide these stitches are going to be. And if you have this, it'll give you the chance to go, all right, this is the kind of stitch I need for this particular project. So you can see here it's getting slowly, just slightly smaller and smaller, and down to a 1 where you only have the very barest hint of it going from side to side. It's not completely a straight stitch, even though it looks kind of like it. So you see here, this is the 7, and then down to the 5, then down to the 3, and then down to the 1. So the next thing we're going to do is exactly the same thing, except I'm going to lower the stitch length down from a 3 to a 2. So you see here, there's quite a big difference here between how far apart each of these zigzag stitches are. And this is when it gets to the point of looking almost like a bar tack, which is when we bring the stitch to about a 3 to a 5, and then you really lower down the stitch length to about a 1, 1.5. So when you're doing something like this, it really helps to show what the capabilities of your machine are, especially when it comes to a zigzag stitch, because you can really use a zigzag in multiple projects. But having something like this will, especially while you're still learning and you're still getting used to the kind of capabilities that your machine can do, this is a really great way to explore what your machine can do and to help you know what your projects can be, like what you can actually do and the kind of clothing that you can make. Because if you know what your machines are capable of, it means that you can explore different kinds of garment constructions and making different things. And if you know that you have this visual representation of what your machine can do, you can apply it to multiple projects in the future. So let's sew with some stretch fabrics. We're going to be using both the zigzag stitch, the triple zigzag, and the lightning stitch as well. Now, for this one, we have to change our needle out to the stretch needle. This way, it's going to move through the fabric and not cut any of the fibers. It's got a slightly rounder point to it. So the fabric I'm using here is called Ponte Roma, so it's a thick knit fabric. So I'm going to show you how a typical zigzag stitch would look and how it stretches with the fabric. So this is just a typical zigzag stitch, and this is how it stretches with the fabric. Now usually if you're using just a regular needle, it wouldn't sew nearly as well as using a stretch needle, so make sure you're using the correct needle here. So we can see how it does stretch with the fabric, but it's a very different thing from when you're actually making a seam with fabric. Because let me show you what it does when you try to stitch a seam with just a zigzag stitch. See, it works well enough, it looks fine from this angle, but once you actually open it up like a typical seam, there is quite a lot of space between each of the points of where the stitch came in. So all you're seeing is one side of the zigzag stitches, and it tends to open up very easily, and it's not quite as a strong seam as what you might think. Especially for a stretch fabric, you really need to make sure that you're using a very strong stitch. So this one here is just the triple straight stitch. It actually kind of, I think a lot of people call it a lightning stitch as well. And this one, it does kind of look a little bit like a lightning stitch, but it looks more like a straight stitch, but it functions better with a stretch fabric. See, you can see how it does allow the fabric to stretch just a little bit. So it works really well, especially in thicker fabrics. So we have that nice amount of stretch, but the stitches are not too far apart to create a very strong seam. See how we've got the nice strong stitch right there? We can see it clearly because I'm using a very obviously contrast thread, but if you're using the same color thread, it'll be fine. Now this is also the zigzag stitch, but it's the 3-stage zigzag stitch. It's not one of my favorites because it is still a zigzag, but it is a lot stronger. This one here is great for using with lingerie, but for a knit or stretch fabric, I still wouldn't recommend it. So those are the 3 different types of stitches that I would normally use for knit or stretch fabrics. I guess you can see which one is my favorite. This is shirring thread. Now, this is actually just a string of elastic that has been wrapped around with a very fine cotton thread. So it's very stretchy and it's a bit of a fiddly thing to work with, but I'm going to show you how we get it into the machine. Now, we don't put it through the top of the machine, we actually have to use a bobbin for this. So it's best to hand wind the bobbin, otherwise it'll cause just too much tension on the thread and you won't be able to sew with it. So I'm just putting it through one of the little holes on the bobbin and then just holding onto it with my fingernails and just hand winding it around and around and around. So once that's all done, I like to trim off that little excess part just from the bobbin there and then very carefully put it into the machine, because I don't put any tension onto the thread, I just put it very carefully into the bobbin. So once it's finally locked in place and I've threaded it through the machine, it'll be ready to sew. Now this is the type of thing that you really can't use on heavy fabrics because the elastic itself is just not quite strong enough. So I'm going to be using this print rayon fabric. Now for a shirring project, you have to really stitch it with the outside of the fabric facing upwards. So the elastic is going to be on the back. Now I'm going to show you 4 separate ways that we're going to be able to stitch it into the fabric itself. I've seen a lot of tutorials say to use a zigzag stitch, and I'll show you why this is not one of my favorite ones. So this is a a zigzag stitch that is about, I'd say about a two stitch width for the zigzag stitch. And I'm also not going to be back stitching it either at the beginning or the end of the stitch, and I'll show you why a little bit later. Now when you pull the elastic out, make sure that you've pulled enough of it out from underneath to make sure it doesn't come and go like right back into the machine again, otherwise it'll get caught in a lot of different places. So there is the back of that one, and now I have just widened the stitch width just a little bit more because maybe that might help as well. So this is at about a 2.5, almost 3, but it looks a little bit less on this particular fabric because there's a big bump underneath where the shirring thread is sitting. So I've also stretching the fabric just a little bit because the elastic from the previous stitch has brought it in. So just make sure that you stretch it out just a little bit so it's a nice straight line as best as you possibly can. And there we go. This is the second line of the zigzag stitch. The next one I'm going to do is actually just a plain straight stitch. Now I do like to give myself a fairly long stitch length for the straight stitch, but it does still look quite short because the elastic brings it back in again. So I would probably go at about a 4 to a 5 for a stitch length, sometimes even a 7 and I've noticed that the longer the stitch length is, the more it actually brings in the elastic, so it makes the shirring a lot tighter. So once you do some practice for yourself, let me know what kind of stitch you prefer to use with your shirring. So there we have the 2 zigzags, the straight stitch, and the next one we're going to be doing is the lightning stitch, because this is the one that we did for knit fabrics to allow for that stretch, and I wanted to see what it would look like in this particular situation. So it definitely takes a little bit longer, but it's still a very nice stitch. So I actually prefer using a straight stitch for the much finer fabrics, and then if it's a slightly heavier fabric, like maybe a poplin, I would probably use the zigzag stitch. Not the zigzag, sorry, the lightning stitch. And there we go. So there is the 4 different types, and I'm going to show you how we make it really nice and tight. So we see how everything looks at the moment. It's still fairly loose. It doesn't really look very good from here. Now this is what we need to do in order to bring the shirring in and make it look really good. So I'm not pressing the iron down at all. I'm just pushing steam into the elastic and into the fabric. And you can see it slowly start to shrink up, and then it gets quicker and quicker. So this is why we needed it to be slightly stretched out from the machine. And when we do this, we want to make sure before we even touch it or move it, the elastic and the thread has had time to cool down, otherwise it'll get stretched out permanently. And you can see from the outside here how it brings it right back in again. I'm not pressing down, I'm just pushing the steam into the fabric. So I'm just very lightly touching it. And there we go, we can see how it's brought in all of that. Now I didn't finish any of the ends, and I didn't do any back stitches because I've noticed it leaves a really big lump and it doesn't always work. So I like to secure the ends in either a separate stitch or into the seam lines as well. And see how that's nice and straight, but the zigzags are not? That's the reason why we don't use the zigzags and we just use the straight stitches. Makes life a lot easier and it looks much more professional. So you can finish the ends of these either in the seams or bring the front thread to the back and tie it off manually, or you can just do an extra vertical stitch to secure it in place. So here is our nice straight stitches that worked really nicely for this shirring, and you can see how much it's actually brought in the fabric right here. Let's make some buttonholes. So this is the typical buttonhole attachment that goes onto the machines, and this is another one that I've actually got. Now this is the one that is supposed to be used with my Singer Heavy Duty. It doesn't really work very well, unfortunately, but this is the one that comes with most machines. So what we see here is these little marks on the side. That is where the little marker on the foot there needs to match up in order to create the correct size buttonhole. It does it automatically on the one on the right by the little handle, but let me show you the settings for it. So we need the widest width, as in the zigzag stitch, so we need the widest width. We need to make sure the length is the correct length for a buttonhole, which it usually does say on there, and it actually has selected the buttonhole stitch. So what I like to do here is that because this is a little bit more manual than a few of the other ones, this is how I set this one up. I have the button and I make sure to line up one side of the button with the very bottom section right where the bottom of the foot can go. So you can see where it matches up those two markers right there. And so I'm going to go, that is one side, and then on the other side I mark exactly where the other side is. So that's how I know how big the buttonhole needs to be, minimum. So I know this buttonhole machine, it starts at the very bottom and then works its way back. So as we set all of this up, here is the lever. This is what controls it to go back, across, and then down, and then across again. So I'll show you in just a second. So we have to make sure that both the threads are underneath the presser foot. The presser foot is pushed all the way to the back, and I've pushed that little lever to make sure it starts off with the bottom section across first, and then it starts working its way back up the left side of the buttonhole. And I'll show you just here. There we go, so we're going from the bottom to the left, and once the presser foot hits that little marker that I've drawn, I push that little lever forward, and that's how it knows to go across and then down the right hand side again. And once it's finished and all the way down to the bottom again, I press it back, it does a large stitch across, and then it starts working its way back up. Now you can do this once, but I prefer to do it twice to give it a really nice strong buttonhole here. And then once it's there, I push it back itself. So this is a lot more manual than some machines, but this is one of the simplest ways that it can do. There we go. And there is a beautiful buttonhole. Now if you see that I use a different machine for this one, it's actually because this machine actually does a really nice buttonhole. My other one, not so much. I think it actually needs to go and get serviced because there is something wrong with it. It used to do beautiful buttonholes, now not so much. So there's the back of it, and it looks quite good. We're just going to make sure to trim off all of those threads. And there we go. We have a beautiful buttonhole, both back and front. So to get a little bit closer here, so I've pushed the little lever back, we've started all the way at the bottom, and it goes up the left-hand side. I wanted you to see it really nice and closely. There we go, I just push the lever forward again, goes down the right, push it across, there we go. One thing I have noticed is that machines actually do it better the second or third time around. Always do a tester first so that you get to know exactly what kind of timing you need to do in order to push the lever in the correct way. So you see the right one, it's not too bad. The left one is much better. Now let's put a button onto it. This is a particular foot made specifically for buttons. Now this one can work with either a 2-hole or a 4-hole. But for this one, it is literally just for you to hold the button in place without keeping your fingers in there. And then it is a simple zigzag stitch. So you need to make sure that the zigzag, the width of that is actually going to be in the correct position. So making sure that the thread is above the buttonhole foot. We just very carefully push the buttonhole, push the button in place, and then put the presser foot down to hold it in place. It does get a little bit fiddly. Sometimes it's better to use maybe a set of pliers or something to hold the button in place. So you see how I very slightly moved the needle there? I'm just turning that little wheel to change the width of the zigzag stitch. So I've just brought it down so that the length of the stitch is at a complete 0. So the feed dogs are not moving the fabric at all, but the zigzag is going from side to side, and I just have to adjust that at all times. See, I'm just going to very slightly move it. That way I'm not going to hit the edges. So I'm just using the manual turning wheel on the side of the machine to do this particular stitch. And I have to move it a couple of times to make sure it's going to fit perfectly, because I don't want to be breaking this needle. So once I know that it's working okay and it's in the correct position, I can put my foot down, give it a couple of good stitches, and then bring it back out. Now, a lot of people would think that's completely done, but I've noticed that this doesn't actually last very long because it is just going around and around. So one thing I do like to do is I like to bring the exposed threads from the top and bring it to the back. Now, once they're both at the back, I actually like to tie it together in a triple knot to make sure that it's absolutely secure. I've had multiple garments have their buttons come off them because I didn't do this last step. So making sure that you are fully securing your buttons on the back of your garment is very, very important. Now remember, all machines are slightly different, so make sure you go through your manual so that you know how to make the best buttonhole and button with your machine. I hope you enjoyed learning all about machine stitching from a professional dressmaker. Please make sure you like and subscribe so you can find out a lot more about dressmaking, fashion design, and sewing techniques.